The hardest part of the job of the founder is to know when to listen to somebody and when not to, when to take the advice and when not to, when somebody is helping and when someone is lying. Today, we're talking about the top sales lies. What you've heard that won't help you get to the first 5, 10, or even 100 million in revenue. These are common lies that get repeated all the time, and I know this because I've even said them before. Not only have I seen the $0 to $100 million journey 3 times, but I've also been to 22 startup accelerators in 14 countries. And I can tell you the lies that we're talking about today are things I've heard from very well-intentioned advisors, great investors, people that want to see you succeed, but they're just plain wrong. I've heard this advice given in all these places, usually while I'm waiting for my turn to go on the stage and talk about why they're wrong. It's pretty awkward. Even though the people who are giving your startup advice are well-intentioned, they not always are telling the truth. And that's what we're here to get into today, because this stops right here. So today, we're breaking down the most common sales lies. The first lie we're talking today has been popularized and spread around for years because it's actually a really fun movie quote. Always be closing.
A, always be B, C, closing. Always be closing.
This is how you get your set of steak knives. The truth is, this is some of the worst advice for startup founders on the planet. You wouldn't partner with just any VC to back your startup. You're trying to choose the right partners. You wouldn't hire just any CTO. You're trying to find the right partner. The same is true for your first 5 customers. We're going to selectively target the right market in the right industry, the right size company using an ideal customer profile, and that's who we're going to close. So we're not always going to close anybody we meet. We're going to close very specific prospects who are the right fit for our business and help us create the sales patterns that we're going to need for hiring, for fundraising, and for great customer testimonials and expanding in the market. So always be closing is absolute trash. We're going to throw that out along with the DVD. And we're never going to, I don't know, we should maybe watch the movie again because it was a pretty good one. But we're going to throw out the advice and we're not even going to waste our time with always be closing. The second one is almost as common as the first. Sales is easy. Just hire a VP of sales. The reason this is a sales lie is because if you hire a VP of sales too soon, this ends up being $1 million mistake. The average VP of sales right now is making around $300,000 to $500,000. You're going to give this person equity. You're going to give them a budget so they can do their job. It doesn't take very long to get to the $1 million mistake. If it's been 18 months, it's even more. Do you really have that kind of burn where you're just going to throw that out on a VP of sales that might be a coin flip on whether or not they're successful? Jason Limkin says 70% of first-time VPs fail. I'm not willing to take those odds. Instead, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with selling 4 or 5 very strategic customers who are really good fits. And as we sell them ourselves, we're going to discover who that person, that prospect, actually wants to talk to. And then we're going to hire the people they want to talk to. Maybe they do need someone seasoned in the industry, and you just have to take that risk. If you're selling security or big cloud hosting environment, the prospects in these more complicated sales environments, they often want to talk to somebody who's really seasoned. You might need a seasoned AE, account executive. You may need a salesperson who's been doing it a while, or you may need a VP of sales who's actually out there closing business. That's different than hiring somebody as a VP of sales whose main job is to hire and build your sales team. Just hire a VP of sales to make sales easy is bad advice. Hire 2, fire 1. This lie has been told time and time again. It comes from actually transactional sales, and some of this bad advice is right here on YouTube. Many sales advisors, they're advising real estate or transactional sales or B2C sales, like selling memberships at a gym, where you can hire a bunch of people, see who work out, fire everybody else. My question for you is that the type of culture you want? On one hand, your startup is building an innovative culture where you're going to hire a 10x engineer. And on the other hand, you're going to hire 2 and fire 1 just because they're sales reps. That doesn't build a great culture for the entire company. In fact, engineers see people who are getting fired on the sales floor, they freak out. This affects the entire company. Instead, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that we understand intimately who that prospect wants to talk to, and we're going to interview and find people that are a really good fit. When we find somebody who's a really good fit, we don't have to hire 2 and fire 1. We can actually hire 2 at a time, support them really, really well, train them, and get great data on our go-to-market process. Worst case scenario, it works for both of them. If we're hiring at the right pace, we're selling the right product, they become profitable or at least productive as a sales squad. If we hire two and fire one, we may not know why one person was successful and why the other person wasn't. That's why hire two, fire one is such bad advice, we classify it as a sales lie. Sales lie number 4 is not a lie that's been told to the founder. This is a lie that you have probably told. We're a land and expand business. Now, in and of itself, being a land and expand business, that's not necessarily a lie. But when you don't have a plan at how you're going to expand your deals, that is absolutely a lie. In fact, not having a plan can hurt you a lot more because you're going to do a really small landing campaign and then not know when it was time to go back and increase the revenue from that prospect. If you don't know when you can go back and actually expand that business, you don't have a process. And if you don't have a process, you're not a land and expand business, you're a land and hope business. We don't want to do that. So in order to balance out lie number 4, we need to write out what our expansion process is. Very simply, who in the account is the right person to expand? Is it our original buyer or is it someone else? Maybe the first time we sold into that account, we sold to the user, but to expand to the entire company, we need to go to their boss. Has that intro happened? Get the intro. Set the meeting so you can actually do this expansion. But big companies that are land and expand businesses like Zoom, like Salesforce, like Slack, these are businesses that actually have a plan for how they run expansion. Beyond having a plan, they have teams that are set up just to focus on how to expand. This is critical. And you need to think about it the same way too. Otherwise, you're going to be telling this lie for years. You're going to be saying, we're land and expand. But if you're land and expand without a plan, then it is a sales lie. And that brings us to our last one, sales lie number 5. It only takes $1 million of ARR to get to Series A. This is lie number 5 for a really good reason. We all know people who have raised funding rounds that have had less than $1 million in ARR, and we know people who've taken many chances to go raise that Series A. I've seen companies need to get to 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 million to do a Series A. These are real clients. This is selling the likes of IBM and still needed more data on the sales process before they were able to convince a Series A investor to come on board. The lie that you have to have $1 million to raise a Series A needs to be thrown out with everything else. Instead of focusing on always be closing, you close the right clients. Instead of hiring a VP of sales, you go and do it yourself and you make sure it's who the customer wants to talk to, and you never fall for the temptation of hiring two and firing one. Instead, you focus on getting great data about the sales process, and you don't say you're a land and expand business unless you're going to have an expansion plan already in place. Then you're not going to need to worry about people who say you need $1 million of ARR to raise a Series A. You're going to have great traction, even better data, and you're going to be able to raise just fine. I'm Jay Ryan. This is How to Do Startup Sales. Thanks so much for watching. If this video was helpful, please share it with a friend.